Yeah.
Hello and welcome to the Light Conversations. Today I am delighted to be joined by Jaguar Mary, a performance artist, glossolalia vocalist, filmmaker, and movement-based medicine being. Hello, Jaguar Mary. How are you today and where in the world are you at this time?
Well, I am in Kingston, New York, which is about an hour and a half outside of New York City. Um, and I'm pretty good today. I have ups and downs, like I'm kind of weighing all the things that are going on in the world right now. I have an empathic heart, so I feel very deeply about all the people who are like struggling and suffering and dying. So, I mean, it's a lot to contain, but somehow I'm here on this planet to contain things, to hold things, to hold space for those things that are happening and to be a kind of like calming force, calming energy within the storm. So I actually think that's why I'm here on the planet right now, is because, I have the knowledge. I'm not looking away. I work on, I work on this idea of denial, like how we can sort of not look at something because it's not convenient or it doesn't fit neatly into our belief systems or whatever. So, part of my journey has included looking at my own forms of denial and then and actually looking at them gently, like just being really gentle with myself and using that knowledge to inform my ability to create calm or to just to be calm. Just by being calm in a space, you radiate that, and so that changes the space that you're in. So I happen to actually be living in a kind of a small-ish city town. It's close to New York, but it's not New York. It's not off of a train or anything like that. So it's not off of one of the Metro North trains where people can just dump out into the space. So it's a little bit like protected in that way, and it has kind of an interesting history because um, it was the first capital of New York State, and it also has the oldest four corners in the country. So it's kind of a unique spot. I'm really happy to be here, and it's filled with artists. That's the other thing, and community-based activists, and it's just like a really great place to be right now.
Amazing. And are you doing an artist residency there? Is that what brought
I
you?
am. I am doing an artist residency. This house that I'm living in was owned by a performance artist from the 70s named Lina Montano. And it was bought by a sort of a a performance artist and kind of a performance art aficionado. In other words, they support a lot of performance artists, and so they bought this house with the idea of doing having an international residency, and it had been serving that purpose up to a year ago when I moved in. And I've just been here for a year. This may be their longest residency, but we're syncing together so well. But it's great to be in a place that has that kind of history, that has been sort of uniquely positioned in this place that's kind of near New York or not in New York. This awesome, studio area that I'm speaking to you now in, and I can just do so much here. So yes, I've been in residency for maybe like a year and 3 months now here in Kingston. Yeah.
Amazing. And you mentioned earlier that you feel like part of your purpose is to be calm no matter what is going on around you. Like,
Mhm.
I would definitely describe you as a calm person. You are so grounded and powerful and
Mhm.
magnetic and calm.
Mhm.
So what's
Thanks.
nourishing you at this time? Like, what's inspiring you and nourishing you?
Well, oh gosh, that's a really great question. I have definitely gone back to um, celebrating and honoring my ancestry and ancestors. I have an altar that I've created because one of my teachers who I practiced with in Sedona, Arizona, died in February. And so when they passed, I needed a space to kind of like really reflect on what I'd learned from them and how in the time we'd spent together in the beautiful red rocks of Sedona. I mean, we were hiking, we'd hike every day and Kali and Mai would just talk and I'd be listening. And it was this real kind of interesting kind of student teacher dynamic, but we were also friends. And Kali and Mai was maybe like 10 years older than me. She was elder enough for me to feel like I was learning from her, and also sort of grounded enough that I could feel the compassion that she had for me, which drew me closer to her. So, oh God, the question. Okay, so I get inspired by I've gone back to sort of ancestor appreciation. I do this, I have a practice every day. I've also been a practitioner of Kundalini Yoga, so I bring in all kinds of Kriya into my life, like during the global pandemic, like COVID-19, I brought in the immunity boost Kriya, which was a 40-day practice. But it's great. It's a breathwork practice. Breathwork is really essential right now because it's all about breathing. We're talking a lot about breathing right now, not being able to breathe, having constricted breath, feeling anxiety. The radical thing really is to take like a huge deep breath and do it as much as possible. Yeah, so I'm inspired by this place that I'm in, this town that I'm in, having kind of like this sort of place of rest for me. Like I have just having space to do whatever work I'm inspired to do in the moment is huge, actually. The space itself is inspiring for me that way. Yeah, I could go on about that, but I can stop too.
No, I love it. So you mentioned that you have a personal practice that you do every day. Can you go into that a bit?
Yeah. So it's usually about an hour. So I'll start out with like a breathwork based Kriya, and then I'll do like some more sort of energetic breath practice, and then I'll move into like just 20 minutes of like letting it all settle. It's like more like a meditation. I was raised as a Buddhist who chanted Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, and sort of in honor of my mother and my connection with her, I'll chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo for 15 minutes or so. And then I come downstairs where my altar is set up with my photos of my ancestors and some gifts that I've left for them, and I sit with them for a time. So, and then I'll probably grab my hoop and then spin in a circle for a while. So it's kind of like several different steps that I do, but I do it every day. And I find that it's absolutely necessary and helpful for me to sort of navigate today's, our current storms. And it's about keeping fluid, because we can like tense up and like kind of like clamp down on our energy, a bit, and as in an attempt to keep ourselves safe. But really, I feel like the more fluid I can be, the more I can sort of go with the emotional waters in my body as well, the more I'll be able to, sort of allow things to, like, when they're coming out, they can actually sort of go that way. And, they could come through. I could feel them, and then I can, like, put them in their right place, wherever that is,
It does. You mentioned being an empath and an empathic person. Does that affect your creativity?
Yeah, it does. It does because, for example, if I'm creating a ritual performance and, I may score the whole thing, I may like figure out all the steps, and it feels good. But then when I'm in the actual space and people are here and I'm feeling something else is going on, it can easily change. And it always usually does change. Like I'll have some elements, components there. For me, ritual performance always involves movements and some kind of shamanically created sound. I'll either make the soundtrack myself or I'll borrow it from other friends who do that kind of work. And so, and then there are other things as well, like the glossolalia that you mentioned, which is a powerful component of my work as well.
Can you talk about glossolalia for those who don't know what?
Yeah, glossolalia is actually comes out of a Pentecostal practice. It's about speaking. It's called speaking in tongues. So glossolalia is kind of like the kind of academic term for it, and it is in a sort of religious sense, from the Pentecostal sense, it is like spirit is entering you, and then what's coming out is a unregimented language. Sounds like language, but isn't quite language. And then either that same person or the next person is in a religious context, which is not exactly what I'm doing. another person will actually translate what the word brought by the Spirit. So my feeling about it is that we're always filled with Spirit. You know, there's no time when we're not, when the Spirit has to enter us, you know, because we are already entered and part of the divine energies, powers that, you know, are here. So, so for me, you know, just because I have an MFA in Performance and Performance Studies from Pratt Institute, and it was there. My thesis is actually on the kind of work that I do, not specifically glossolalia, but I do talk about the fact that it's this unregimented language that is a kind of performance that introduces liminality. So I have to break that down a little bit. So liminality is kind of like a threshold space. It's like if you imagine a door, it's almost like the act of walking through the door. It's like you're on one side and you're walking on the other side. But the act of walking through is like this interesting sort of liminal space. It's the in-between. And often it's like, it's the kind of gesture that is like, it could be a risk, you know, it's moving into the unknown. So this is language moving into the unknown. You know, that's how I kind of think of how glossolalia shows up in my own practice. And when people hear it, you know, of course, because we're like in the modern world and all this stuff, it's like, are they saying something? What are they talking about? Like, you know, and so there's like this peak interest. There's an opportunity for another kind of hearing to come in. The hearing with the ears is happening, but maybe we can get into the hearing that is like the heart hearing, because you don't know what's being said. But I know what energetically I'm imparting, and perhaps, you know, perhaps it's actually being transmitted, and you can actually sort of read that, feel that. It's beyond language. You know? Does that make sense?
Totally. I'm thinking of a beautiful video I saw about the chakras and people communicating. It was like an animated video where you could see the energy moving between the bodies. And it's what you're talking about there. And also while you were speaking, I was thinking about how when I first met you and you shared a hula hoop with me, and perhaps that hoop was somehow a portal to the liminal, what you just described as kind of flow into the unknown. I definitely experienced that once I got that hula hoop around me that you handed over. I think you had two. One was a Cadillac and one was a Ferrari.
Oh, that's right.
I like the kind of thick, easy, much easier to maneuver. The Ferrari, I couldn't work the Ferrari.
I know, it takes some skill to get the Ferrari going.
Yes. Let's talk a bit more about your performance art, because I've got here concepts such as Afrofuturism and ritual performance practice. So were you developing those concepts as performance art on your MFA that you were doing? Well,
actually, you know, Afrofuturism is kind of like this key phrase. It has some cachet in many different, you know, across a spectrum of like understandings of what Afro is, what diasporic effects have been throughout history, what that means for us now. When I think about Afrofuturism, I actually sort of extended that with the help of some other friends after like many discussions into Afrofutures. So it isn't about creating sort of like a monolithic idea of this Afrofuturism, but it's like an idea of like extended dreaming, and that each dream is allowed and can kind of fractal into something real. So when I think about Afrofutures, I also think about this concept from Ghana, from like ancient Ghana, called Sankofa, which a lot of people refer to. So the idea of Sankofa is that basically the phrase is, it's not wrong to look back at what you have forgotten. So the idea is that there's things back there. There's like things back there that are really valuable and rich, that once we bring into this kind of modern context and the things meld, that some sort of interesting, sort of fresh, sort of profoundly like enlivening thing can erupt. So when I think about Afrofutures, it's almost like it does have to do like a kind of time travel, sort of like a
I like that.
yeah. So like looking back, bringing forward, going into the future in a sense, or dreaming or imagining it. When I was growing up as a kid, there was this sort of Buddhist concept that each moment contains the past, present, and the future. Every moment contains that. So that kind of feels good to me as a person who's interested in time travel, as a person who's interested in shape shifting. So all of that is really sort of beautiful territory for me to play around with when I'm doing performance. Like moving back, being present, going forward, blending the multiple, reshaping them, remolding. Just it's the creative process.
And have you, is there one, I've actually seen various videos of your different performances that you've been putting on in galleries over the years. Is there one specific performance that you've created that you feel like really captures the essence of that most?
Oh, that's a really good question, because the thing about working and even naming myself as shapeshifters, like each performance really responds to the environment and has different outcomes or different sort of transmissions, and I love them all. I've enjoyed every single performance I've done because I've learned a lot. And I think the one that I put up on my website that is in a gallery space, and perhaps you're referring to this, it was like, first of all, performance in gallery spaces is like who wants to do that, but it's done all the time, but it's like a white box, right? With like art, and it's just art on the walls, and then you're supposed to be this living art coming into the space, and it's a kind of entertainment in a way, So how to kind of upend this idea that there's some entertainment, that we're all here, we're having our glasses of wine, and we're waiting to be entertained, And so I'm behind the wings, and basically what I do, I have this whole sort of outfit on, and I just kind of slowly, as people are milling around, looking at the art, I just kind of slowly begin to come out. I'm just like walking very, very slowly, and then people are just like, something's happening, and then people sort of start looking at me, but I go into the audience space and I just start gently connecting with people through touch. So I'm actually just gently touching them, and I'm just giving them love, and that particular performance I call the compassionate one, because I could feel like, what I learned about Kuan Yin coming through, that just kind of like, that just sort of like all-encompassing kind of flowing compassion just kind of flows, and it's beautiful. And then later, my other sort of archetypal references are Kali, of course, and Durga, and that real sort of like the mother that is going to like wipe the slate clean, so that she can sort of help rebuild something. And she also has a lot of compassion. She has this kind of big picture compassion. So it's if you're in the way of this particular sort of spiritual progress, then you may get sort of like squashed. That's Kali energy. She's like, we've got it. We are. The divine is here.
And
so, yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say, like, you're talking about some archetypes, and I have seen a number of performances that they seem to me to capture this concept of ritual performance. And do you create those specifically for a show, or is it something like I'm really fascinated from an academic point of view, like being an expert in performance art. You create a series of performances that you contain and can bring to different spaces, or is it like that exists for that moment and then it's done?
Well, I think what's happening is I do like an invocation for myself, like at the beginning of a performance. So there is the invitation for those invisible and visible energies that are here to assist. I'm calling them in. And so as a result of that, different archetypes, I don't go in thinking, I'm going to be Kuan Yin or I'm going to be Kali. I'm going to be whatever the energies sort of, whichever energies arise. Because sometimes it's yamaya, it's like completely like fluid and like, sometimes it's like Nana Buruku, who is like the cosmic mother, that also comes through. So it's like, I think what has happened is that over the years, as I've become aware of and appreciative and honoring of these various archetypes that have been celebrated, honored, and by millions of people forever. As I kind of utilize that knowledge base that is very real, almost tangible. It is tangible. I mean, people in Haiti know about it a lot, they call it being mounted. When Obatala mounts a human being, there's certain affects that person takes on, and they do it to help the community. It's a healing for the whole community. So I'm not involved in I'm not a practitioner, though I have had visitations from like Haitian priestesses, I'm like, but I'm not like a voodoo or hoodoo practitioner per se. I'm not like a registered member or something.
Do you have to close the experience when you invoke and it like?
I have to close the experience every time.
Channeling almost like what I'm imagining when you describe it is that I'm actually totally in awe that it's not premeditated. When you do performance piece, you receive it, it happens there. Like that must be really exhilarating to be in the space with you whilst like anything could happen. And then do you have to kind of close and release that experience?
Yeah, I do. So just to clarify, because I'm a trained performance artist, so there is that sort of there. There's also sort of already in my body and in my brain, really, like a knowledge of how to be in performance. So how to do a performance, like just the basics of how to or not more than the basics, but just to say that while there is a big opening and expectation even that something else is going to occur, something else will flow in, I have the choice to bring it in. I usually, of course, do choose to bring it in. And then I'm working with that energy, shaping what I know with what it is bringing to create the experience. And so that also, because I've brought the energies in, I've done an invocation, then at the end, I usually get everyone involved with like closing the space and thanking the energies that were there to assist. I also offer, like both at the beginning and at the end, sort of like a protection for myself and for everyone, that energies that are not helpful are not helpful. Energies that are not helpful may find their right place, which is not here. Which is not here where we are.
Well, because I guess you don't know what energies people are bringing with them into the space. So in a way, you're doing everyone a wonderful service by clearing whatever may have happened in that moment, but whatever with them as well. So it's a healing kind of performance. I mean, would you ever consider teaching this style of performance art?
I would consider teaching it. Yeah. Thank you for that question. It's something to consider. I mean, I certainly have, I have the sign off from the institution that I can teach it. I had been thinking about going deeper. I wasn't sure. I'm not quite sure if I'll go the performance art route. I might go the theological route. I don't know.
How about
The,
both?
or I could do, yeah, I could find a combination. One of my favorite writers actually comes from both spaces, and so going deeper means more study. Another set of letters behind my name. I don't know. Like
You
I
got
just like to be in
all right.
school.
MFA, MFA.
Yeah.
Expert.
Yeah.
Let's talk a bit about your experience with filmmaking, film and video, because that was your first MFA that you did, was film and video, right? So what?
Yeah.
Why did you choose to study film and then move into performance art?
Well, I'll go further back and say that my first, I went to a high school for performance arts, but they didn't have a film program. They had a visual art program, but it wasn't film. It was mostly sort of drawing and painting. And so I went to the dance department. So my sort of initial entrance into development as an artist came through movement. And then when I moved to New York City in 1987, a whole nother, a different wave of like pandemic was happening, which was the AIDS crisis. So I got involved. I was a young person, and I have my own sort of righteous way of being part of the world. And there's not enough AIDS, there's not enough education. A group of people are being stigmatized. This is not on my watch, that kind of thing. So, but that's just to say, I started filming. I picked up a camera. My role was to film the authorities, the police, actually, at these protests that were happening around the AIDS crisis. That's how it started. And I joined a collective of folks who were making films, and there was public access was happening. It was like, because of public access, it was a big conversation about getting cameras in the people's hands so they could tell their own stories. And we were doing that. So that's how filming for me came about. I became really interested in it. I loved the image. I also was thinking about ideas around representation. Like because I knew for myself, the more I saw like Black folks who that related more to my experience, the more likely I was to feel sort of encouraged and happy. And so I was just like, well, that's what I want to do. I want to make films that talk about like gender and Black feminism and, what are the margins? What does the margin mean for a queer Black person? Like how do we talk about that, both within the Black community and outside the Black community? And so I made a lot of films around that, a lot. I mean like 3 or 4 short films about around those issues. And yeah, so that's how the film, and then, like now for me, like the filming is often like I'll have a film going in the back while I'm doing a performance, and it's more because I went to Cal Arts. So Cal Arts is kind of their specialty is like experimental. They have a lot of really great experimental film teachers. That's their they do animation really well because of Disney, and they have this experimental film aspect going. So my work actually changed quite a bit because I wasn't, because I was already sort of working outside of genre. And so when I went to Cal Arts, it just kind of helped me figure out my style a bit more. And so my style has changed from when I was in New York. It's become much more sort of, just kind of talking with images and less actual speaking. And then I'll do some glossolalia sometimes in my, work. And so, yeah.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for sharing the story from film to, so
Yeah.
when did performance come in? Was it just a logical progression for you?
Yeah, it was a logical progression.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was already doing performance. I was doing performance before I went to Cal Arts.
Yeah.
I was performing in my films. I was doing installation. I had a whole sort of run in New York City, was the art run, like a period of time when I was living in New York City as an artist. I had a gallery. I was doing installations. I was showing up with biennials, so I had so I was doing performance and film, but I wasn't calling myself a performance artist, which is kind of strange why I wasn't doing that. But
what year would that have been in? When was that around?
That would have been 96. Yeah.
That's really interesting because I went to film school in 96 and I was really into performance and I was studying film, and my film teacher with utter disdain was like, that is performance, what you're doing. Like, it was a really bad thing to do performance. And I was like I didn't even know what I was doing, but I knew that it was really right. Yeah. The camera was on.
Yeah. There's so many artists who are using film. I mean, I think of Anna Mendieta, who was doing these awesome film performances. I mean, that was before.
That real life experience with an artist, like get into the fifth dimension.
Yeah. Didn't you feel like you're in the art? Like you are the art, actually.
You are the art. You are absolutely the art.
Yeah.
So, what do you want people to know about you and the work you're doing now?
Well, I want people to know that, I'll just share that I'm 57 years old, which I only share that because it is a kind of affirmation that says I have entered adulthood, even though I'm very childlike in many ways, but I'm an elder, So what that has meant for me is a different kind of listening, and actually maybe even more listening than speaking. So my work right now, because the other things that are listening more than speaking are plants. So I've really connected a lot with the plants that live with me, right outside my door. I have
I actually have a question for you about plants in my list. You do? Can we talk about mugwort?
Yeah.
I just have an question with the plant kingdom. Please can we talk about mugwort? What do you think so much about mugwort? Tell me more about mugwort and why you were so drawn to work with it.
Yeah. I'm really interested in the dream space. My teacher often, Kali Mai, they would say, I can't hike with you today. I'm in the dream world. I'm in the inner world. And I would be like, okay, all right, and I'd be like, I really want to sort of access that for myself. I want to know more about how to do that. And so I've always been sort of keyed into dreams. I have brought I don't know if you were there in Bali when Jane was teaching shamanic dreaming. This is before I even met my teacher, but I had a shamanic dreaming class that was part of the hula hoop retreat, which was bizarre but really wonderful. So
there were so many wonderful workshops in that week.
Yeah.
The spirit animal, and a lot of negative emotions in a fire, and
yes, the Agnihotra, yes.
And welcome to the circle.
I was doing ritual before I even started calling myself a ritual performance artist. Because my whole life has been ritualistic. I'm a kid. I'm 11 years old, and I'm brought into this great hall, and everyone's chanting. And there's an altar there, and everyone's in this space chanting, and that's part of my DNA. That's just what's in me. So I felt lucky to bring that along. Yeah, so mugwort. Mugwort. So mugwort. So
tell me about mugwort.
So mugwort is considered, it's a weed, and it's considered an invasive species in New York State. It grows everywhere. It it happens to be growing all up and down the street where I live. So what happened was I had a friend over, and it was a full moon. We went outside. The full moon was up, and there was just like these plants, and they were so tall. And I was looking at them, and I was like, I've got to cut those down. Like the weeds in front of my house. Like how did they spring up so fast? And then one of the co-owners of the house came by as I was like starting to trim down the hedge. I had my shears out. I was doing work, and Hope said, "Oh, you're getting rid of all that mugwort." And I was like, "Mugwort? That's mugwort?" Like I had heard, like I don't know, somebody talking about it like ages ago. Oh, I know how I knew about mugwort because moxa. Because I'm a huge proponent for, my medicine is acupuncture as well, and so, they'd burn mugwort over the points, moxa, and so I was just like, oh, that's a healing plant. I didn't realize the dreaming part yet. I only knew that mugwort was used for moxa, and then I started doing research on it. I was like, lucid dreaming. This is mugwort is known as a lucid dreaming agent, and it's also like a clearing agent. Like when it's dried and it's burned, it works like sage. It works like clear spaces and to bring sort of protective energies into the space. So to me, the plant was like everything. I was just like, this is a plant. This is my plant. So right now the hedge is out. I trimmed it a little bit. I've got I made some mugwort wands. I make tinctures. Like I really got more into like my performance more. My performance now is a bit more witchy. I'll put it that way. It's a little more witchy.
The video with the mugworts, and you were kind of smudging people in the gallery.
Yeah. I was doing an anointing with the mugwort, and it was so great. People were, those who received were just like, thank you. Like you're just brushing people down with plants, letting people smell the plant, rubbing, like a paste of the plant in their palm. Like all of this is like, get to know this plant because it is an ally. Mugwort is an ally.
So before I took you down the mugwort lane, and thank you for answering the question because I really wanted to know what mugwort. You were actually, I had asked you, what do you want people to know about you and the work that you do this time? And you started to talk about the plant kingdom. So was it correct to go down the path of mugwort?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. That is how my work has changed. I mean, or evolved, because now, when I was, it happened pretty quickly because I moved up here during my last year of school. So I actually did my thesis up here in Kingston, and with the mugwort. So I was already kind of like thinking of it as something that I was going to work with, but it wasn't until later, like after I graduated from school, that I actually thought, well, I'm going to actually bring this plant in. I'm going to like start, acquainting people with the plant. I'm going to actually let the plant speak for itself just by what it has, what its attributes are. I'm going to invite people to go into a deeper listening with this particular plant, but as a result, like the plant world in general, the earth, the planet.
Yes. And are you capturing that passion right now for plant in both performance and film?
Yeah, in performance and film and in medicine. So I'm making medicines with plants. I didn't do that before. It's a whole new relationship, a whole new learning. I'm not an herbalist, but I'm learning so much. And people who are herbalists share so much. You can ask the questions.
And okay, so as we're nearing towards the end of our time together, I have two questions. One is what you are looking forward to as we are all coming out of the lockdown experience and engaging with each other again, socially and all feeling quite different. I'll speak for myself. It's changed this experience over the last few months. And what are you looking forward to And then, after you answer that question, if you're happy to share some of that was crazy.
Yeah. So, on the other side of this, I am seeing more open-heartedness, which sounds really trite in a way, but it's actually, there's so many sort of forces at work that would require our closed-heartedness, that we start to shut down. And certainly for many years, we've been shut down, we've been sort of desensitized to many things. I mean, this is one of the things that happens when you buy something at like a box store or something, and you're like, oh, I can only afford this, and this is the perfect price, but at the same time, someone else in another part of the world is paying the price for you being able to get that. So it's just it's just considering all, not that there's anything specifically to do, but there's definitely something to know and to consider and to feel into, because over time, the ways that we relate to ourselves, especially Americans, actually relating to the rest of the world, I see big shifts happening there, because I feel that people are coming together in new ways. People are appreciating togetherness more, and so my hope is that it continues. Like, I'm not expecting huge shifts, really. I'm really just wanting to keep it simple. I feel like I'd love to see a new simplicity that is really sort of based in love practices, really consideration, empathy, thinking beyond the physical body that I'm into another physical body and the other physical body. It's like empathy is an attempt to sort of feel more and through things, like feel more, allow it to. And we can only do that if our hearts are open. If our hearts are closed, and it's just like painful. It's painful to feel things. That's it's like it's a strange thing. Something painful happens, you close your heart. Another painful thing happens, you close your heart. So now I'm just really hoping that we can start opening up. But okay, so to the other thing.
I just want to say, you are a heart opener, Jaguar Mary. And you said that part of your purpose is to kind of be calm and hold that calm space. So I would say you're a heart opener, and your performance art, like whether intentional or not, seems very much to be an act of like supporting people to open their hearts, like clearing the energy body and the spirit, like our heart opener. And it's many wonderful things about you. So on that note, why don't you tell us what you're about to do?
Yeah. So I'm just gonna take a few deep breaths, and then I'll probably close my eyes.
Thank you. I felt that. I felt that was a blessing. And a wish. Thank you. Jaguar Mary, thank you so much for your time today and sharing your wisdom, your experiences, your stories. And if people want to check out more of your artworks and offerings, for sure you've got the radio show coming up.
Yeah. So it's the Midnight Medicine Journey. It's East Coast time. 12 a.m. to 2 a.m. on Tuesday morning. So it's Monday night, Tuesday morning. People sometimes get that, Monday night, midnight to 2 a.m. Yeah, so Midnight Medicine Journey. And also I have a website. It's Jaguar Mary X, jaguarmaryx.com.
So, is there anything else that we haven't discussed that you want to get into this space?
I guess the other thing too that I'm really interested in is the language of the body. And that has to do with movement, you know, the actual movement being a language, but also how the body speaks, how the body relates information um, to us, you know, like how many times have we been, for example, you know, like standing and not paying attention, we step out into the street and then we step back for some reason unknown to us and something comes whizzing by, you know, like even though our eyes didn't see this thing coming, our body felt it coming and did that protection thing. Like I feel that all the time happening with my body. I'm just like I'll do something, then after I do it, I'm like, why did I do that? I mean, I wasn't planning on doing that. I did this, my body did this thing and gave me this information, and I wasn't sort of consciously, cognitively focusing on that. So it's very interesting, you know, like the body actually speaks, you know. And so I also hope that this pause, the great pause, our, you know, collective sheltering, um, invites us to pay more attention to our bodies, because there's so much, it's a very rich terrain to really investigate, you know, how our bodies speak to us. And of course, you know, our body speaks to us through, like, you know, pain, of course, or disease, you know, something's up, you know. So, but, you know, to pay attention, to take responsibility and to pay attention to that. So.
What is like one way that you can share with me to pay more attention to my body?
Oh, gosh.
Passing some wisdom on.
Yeah. One way to pay, I mean, these are some of the standard ways are to um, slow down. That's kind of a standard. It's difficult to say that to like a person with kids or, you know, like who's working all the time, just say slow down. But I definitely think that a practice of rest is what's going to help your body feel more willing to communicate with you, you know.
You know what's jumping out at me is
What?
is the thing that brought us together. It's the thing that you introduced me to, is the hula hoop, the hooping. You can slow down if you need to. You can go if you need to.
Yeah. That's right. The hoop's magical in so many ways. I mean, yeah.
Like the minute I saw you, I am transported to a very happy time in life, very happy place, and it's bringing me so much joy to see you and to speak with you now. It's just awesome. You're saying, please pay attention to the body more, out of the head, into the body.
Yeah. And also acknowledge the body, the technologies that your body already has. Like, for example, when you smile, smiling releases chemicals that make you can feel in your heart, you know. Also skipping, oddly enough, like skipping, you can't be sad if you're skipping. I mean, you just simply cannot. I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but if you're skipping and you've got your heart, you're pumping from your other heart, which is your gastrocnemius down here in your calf, you know, it's like, it's considered to be like another sort of blood pumper. Like it's up there with the heart itself as a muscle that moves blood through the body. So the gastrocnemius, which is the big muscle that's part of your calf, when you start skipping, you're actually pumping more blood through your body. And more blood always means like more, you know, you need more you can oxygenate your body if you're skipping and breathing. So it's a good thing. I mean, exercise is great no matter what, but yeah, even though it sounds kind of ridiculous, but you know.
It's a really positive note to end on. So good to see you. Like everything's becoming so digital, so it means like you don't necessarily have to travel to another country to have your performance art shown there, right? I think everything.
Yeah.
So Yeah, I want to see you popping up on screens over here on this side of the pond. Okay.
Awesome.
I hope
Yeah.
to see you again in real life one day.
Yes.
Not
Yes.
in the future.
All right. Good to see you too.
Bye. Take care. Well,
Thank you
thank
too.
you.
Bye.